And John says, I don't see him doing that today. John says he's sort of lost his movement that he had. For my money, he used to be elusive. He used to be awkward, coming at you from all different angles. He's gone a bit one-dimensional. Before Tyson Fury changed his strategy against Deontay Wilder for the second fight, I told everybody who was singing his praises because of the elusiveness he displayed in the Klitschko fight that the blueprint for that fight will be for that fight only. Boxing requires you to be a chameleon. And I was saying, as good as you might think that victory was, until you fought a varied amount of contenders, like Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, although Wilder hasn't fought the same level of opposition as AJ has as a champion, you've got to keep reinventing yourself. And when you can't no longer do that, you're a sitting duck. You might think you're the big shit, but people are writing down notes, watching videos and saying, well, these patterns here in the ring are becoming predictable. We're going to exploit that. And that's often how you get beat. So he's looking one-dimensional in John Fury's eyes. The movement is gone. But they said they were going to sacrifice the movement to get the job done against Wilder. And this is the new style, isn't it? Everybody's screaming, crunk style, crunk style. So, you know, it is what it is. That shouldn't be a surprise to John Fury. I mean, if he's going to come in at 20 and 19 stone, of course he's not going to have the movement. And he did say he was going to come in even heavier for the third Wilder fight. This could go some way to explain the sparring rumors that Jared Anderson put hands on him, because Wilder is not an effective pressure fighter. If he's pushed on his back foot, he becomes a mere mortal. And while some people are just transfixed on his power like that's the be-all and end-all, it can cancel out everything everyone can do. No, there's fighters out there who actually know how to fight inside. And if you're slow and lumbering, they'll work you over in there. How was Tyson, I'm talking about Mike Tyson, able to be so successful in the 80s at 5'10", 15 stone 7 or whatever he weighed in, taking on heavyweights who was 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", in Tony Tucker's case, 16 stone, 17 stone, because they were slow and lumbering to him. He saw everything they were going to do and then went about his work and worked them over. They were slow. Fury is now 33 years of age. So he was around 30, just turning 30, the first Deontay Wilder fight. He weighed in 256. 273 for the rematch just over a year later. So at 33 years of age today, is he getting back down to 256? Think about this. 256? This is the weight he came in for the Otto Wallin fight. This is the fight that lost Ben Davison his job. Tyson Fury's dad was barking at Ben Davison. Look what you're doing. You're getting him to come in that light. You're weak as a kitten. Weak as a kitten. 254. That's the weight he came in for Wilder. The first fight where they were marveling over his boxing, his movement, and his feinting and jabbing. You coming in that weight at 33? And this is what I told you before his comeback. I said, you're not necessarily going to see the fallout from him blowing up to 300 pounds, yo-yo dieting, and being inconsistent in training. You're not going to necessarily see it straight away. First Wilder fight, adrenaline must have been pumping like mad. You know, Ben Davison's there, good training camp, probably not perfect, they never are perfect, but good training camp. Got his weight down, all excited, and the hard work paid off in the fight. But now, after yo-yo dieting and drinking beer and eating fast food, you want to maintain these training camps over a period? No. Down the line, these training camps are going to take their toll. So he's probably not doing as much cardio as he used to because the body can't handle it. Someone like AJ, who's consistently in the gym, will be able to replicate a high standard of training camps over a longer period than Fury. He came in at 156 for the first Wilder fight, full of adrenaline, excited that he's back. First real opponent since Vlad in 2015. Got off the floor a couple of times and got a draw against the odds. He came in a little heavier against Tom Schwartz, who, you know, we can't really judge too much of that. Then he came in lighter for the Otto Wallin fight than he did for the first Wilder fight. He laboured a little. Got his eye cut up bad. He looked a little vulnerable. After his dad was barking the place down, he added another 17 pounds to his frame. And people were screaming, this has got to be crazy. This is suicide. And he said he was going to stand right in front of Wilder and engage him in a war. Now, I don't want to keep bragging, you know what I mean? But you know my take on all this, you know what I mean? Like, when everybody was saying this is suicidal, I was saying it's risk strategy. Yes, it's risky, but this is what boxers do. They adapt to get the victory. And it worked against Wilder. But what if Tyson wants to use that more elusive style again? How does he do it? Because to do it, you've got to get the weight off. You've got to lose at least 17 pounds. But there's a few factors that are against him doing that. He probably doesn't have the metabolism genetically, and at 33 years of age, that metabolism doesn't speed up. And he doesn't live that life. He doesn't live that life like that. That consistent training and that consistent dieting is like money in the bank. It can sustain you over the long duration of a career, but only for so long. In saying that, we saw Pacquiao saying his legs cramped up. No, you're just old, man. Yeah, they did cramp up because you're old. I said from the first bell, Manny, you know what I mean, normally rocks from side to side with the upper body. You know what God told Manny? Nope, you can't have that no more. When you're in the element of youth, you don't even think about, I've got to rock side to side from the upper body. It just happens. Now you're a sitting duck. Still 5 or 6 weeks, I believe, till October the 9th. So Tyson will be as ready as he can be for Deontay Wilder by that time. And we'll see what he's got. Now, if Wilder is to beat Fury, he's already fought him twice. He's got a lot of tape to study. He's got a lot of blueprint, muscle memory of them two fights. If he can't make the improvements, he's not only come off second best in their fight series, the rest of his career is potentially compromised. Why? Because his thing is being a puncher, and a lot of a big puncher's makeup is how much he can intimidate his potential rivals. And if he can't do that no more, these young cats especially, man, they're going to be looking to do damage and get a scalp like Wilder on their record. And then you've obviously got to look at the psychological damage it will do to Wilder. I mean, he didn't cope very well with a loss in the second fight, did he? How's he going to cope with a third loss? Malik also said that Dillian will be a tougher opponent for Deontay Wilder than Anthony Joshua, saying that Anthony offers a bigger target than Dillian. Well, trying to make it make sense, but didn't Tyson Fury offer a bigger target than Anthony Joshua? And arguably, Fury's beat him twice. I don't know what this is all about. Seems like some clout chasing to me. Always mentioning Joshua's name. Always. I heard he spent time in one of Dillian's camps, or they've been in the same camp together. Maybe Dillian intimidated him a little. Ain't it getting tiring now, speculating what Wilder can do to Dillian or Anthony Joshua? Let's make some fights happen, and let's see what goes down in the ring. They don't think about how certain things sound when they say them. By coming out saying that, and then you add to that Wilder has ducked and dodged Dillian for thousands of days as a number one contender, you sound like you're a little shook of Dillian. So they actually have a UK broadcaster for the third fight, Wilder and Fury. The July date, they didn't have a UK broadcaster up until a few weeks before the fight was cancelled with Fury contracting corona. But BT is the UK broadcaster. I don't know what that means for the Sky subscribers, who apparently are now getting ESPN content now. Matchroom have left. Maybe the Sky subscribers might get it. Because Pacquiao Ugas, that was on Sky, on one of the Sky channels. And it looks like with Matchroom gone, they might be going back to picking up the overseas action, especially in America. And at the moment, if they're going to continue to keep boxing on the platform, they're going to have to get the ESPN cards. They have replaced Matchroom with the Boxer promotional team. They're going to broadcast the final eliminator for the English super middleweight title, which is contested between Jamal Ledoux and Jermaine Brown on the 28th of August. That would be the first domestic card that Boxer, BOXXER, broadcast on Sky. Now, the English title is not a priority in terms of headlining on a Sky or BT card for the most part, especially not an eliminator for an English title. It's normally British titles, Commonwealth and European that will headline on a Queensberry or MATCHROOM card. So they're a little behind the pace. They're going to have to develop a roster of boxers and fights that can compete with Frank and Eddie domestically. Now, as long as they've got some good boxing people who are good scouts, they can easily get the best of the bunch on the Fight Zone cards, maybe pick off a few of the guys that Mick Hennessy has on Channel 5 and start building up a stable. The biggest issue they're going to have, though, is the Sky subscribers have had fights like Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua for the British title, James DeGale, George Groves for the British title. These have been our domestic fights broadcast on Sky. Frank Warren had Denzel Bentley and Felix Cash for the British title, Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce for the Commonwealth title. Will the audience have the patience to withstand eliminators for the English title and English title bouts and a whole load of small hall fighters perhaps on the undercard? I don't know. We'll have to see how it pans out. They're going to have to withstand the blitz of criticism early on and power through. To emphasize the point, like Frank Warren has a card on Saturday. He's got Akeem Ellis-Brown versus Sam Maxwell. That's for the British super lightweight title at 140. Leon Woodstock versus Anthony Kakase, if that's how you pronounce his name. That's for the British super featherweight title. And they've got Jazz Ahmed versus Kardemi for the British super flyweight title. So they've got 3 British title fights on one card and 1 English title. Boxer, BOXXER, they're headlining a card with an eliminator for an English title on Sky Sports. That's unheard of, at least in recent memory. Frank's card is on the 28th. And then later on, early hours of Sunday morning, Daniel Dubois will take on Joe Cosumano, who's 19-3-0. And Tommy Fury will take on Anthony Taylor, who has 1 fight, 1 loss. Tommy, 6-0, brother of Tyson Fury. They'll be making their American debuts representing Queensberry and Frank Warren. Obviously, you have Jake Paul, Tyrone Woodley headlining. So a busy night for the Queensberry stable. And I forgot Anthony Yardy's on that card in Birmingham on Saturday, taking his tune-up for the Lyndon King Arthur fight later on this year. According to your boy Mike Catpinger, Triller's Ryan Kavanaugh tells ESPN contracts are being sent today for the Teofimo Lopez George Kambosos title fight. It will take place on Tuesday, October the 5th at New York's Hulu Theater at the MSG. $19.99 for the pay-per-view, or $2.99 as part of the monthly subscription. Wow, so this was supposed to be the big power move, the $6 million purse bid, which nobody saw. It came from left field from Triller. But COVID came, and they had to try and change business strategies, even put the fight in Australia, Kambosos' home country, where it would have definitely have done big gates. And there's pay-per-view revenue out there in Australia too. But it's been a bit of a come down for Teofimo, bit of a crash landing with a bump to reality. New York's Hulu Theater is formerly the Felt Forum, I believe. So that's not even the main MSG arena. The Hulu Theater, $19.99. We don't normally see them kind of prices for pay-per-views in America. That's UK type figures, you know what I'm saying? Or $2.99 as part of the monthly subscription. I guess Teofimo Lopez at this stage would just be happy to get the fight on. I hope he's still focused after all this fight has been through. This is where his old man is going to be a vital part of that team. Keep his son focused on what needs to be focused on. By all accounts, from what I've heard and what I can see, T.O. is not a household name in America. So it's not a pay-per-view they can do for $60 a pop. So bidding $6 million for it was very ambitious, wasn't it? In hindsight. I gave T.O. his due. I said, yo, Bob, because, you know, I get a Bob any chance I get, and I still will. But
Can't be that hard on Tio, or perhaps you can. Somebody perhaps should have legislated for Corona. People are learning now the hard way. Tio should have got himself vaxxed up in hindsight, but can't cry over spilled milk. Triller claimed they've lost nearly $5 million, travel expenses, marketing costs that can't be recouped since event insurance isn't protected against COVID. Pricing the pay-per-view at $19.99. I think they know they're going to take a loss, but they just want to recoup whatever they can recoup and do as much damage control as they can on the event. Now, a lot of people are saying that AJ has to steam into USYK and make the use of his physical advantages. And they could be right. They could be right. At the same time, I like how AJ's rebounded from that Ruiz win, and I'm looking at how his boxing IQ has improved. So, okay, let's give you an example of what I mean. Anthony Joshua is sharpening the mind to avoid mentally fatiguing when he is faced by the unique movement of Alexander USYK. Joshua explained to Sky Sports why USYK's footwork makes him his trickiest ever opponent, 100%. Movement means you are never stationary to get hit. Movement is important. Concentration, when you want to punch, you lock in, then make a move. You have to make sure your brain works. That can be mentally fatiguing, so I'm sharpening the mind so that I can concentrate for the 12 rounds. Also practicing having the ability to punch 4 times, not just once. Concentrate. Take your time, pin him down. It's a fight for the brain, knowing what you've got in front of you and knowing how to deal with it. You can either be aggressive, corner him, throw everything at it. Or take your time, be clever, then knock him out. USYK, a former undisputed cruiserweight champion, a former Olympic gold medalist, is stepping up to heavyweight to become only the 3rd boxer ever to reign in both divisions. AJ says he does look at his weight, but he's not trying to make weight because he's a heavyweight. He says he tailors his training. He says he's getting a lot of experience. He's been fighting good fighters for a long time. He studied them and learned about their training camps. He's learning how to condition his body for specific fights. He said he's looking trim for this fight. He's fighting a guy who was a 12-round fighter, so it would be silly to go in there bulky with his muscles screaming for oxygen. He said he's been training like a 15-round fighter in this camp. He will be well conditioned to fight. That is the key. What happens when I train that way? My body adapts. It takes its natural form. This is the form it has taken. He has recruited sparring partners to replicate USYK's southpaw stance, including Irish prospect Thomas Carty and German-based Shokran Poani. He said he wants good sparring, tough sparring, because you practice how you perform. He says they've got some really good sparring partners, but you don't want to leave it all in the gym. But as long as you train with purpose, you're going to learn. Adversity is when you find out who you are. So he puts himself in vulnerable positions and gets comfortable. Guys with more power than me, guys quicker than me, a longer reach than me, a quicker jab than me. Through the process, I develop as well. It's a process that I'm going through, adapting to a southpaw. Now, you see that mentally fatiguing part? That is key. USYK and Lomachenko, 2 different styles, don't get me wrong, but they use that frenetic movement to discombobulate you. They drag you all around the place with that movement. Manny Pacquiao used to do it. And if you are not mentally able to keep focus as the rounds go by because your body's tiring, they'll beat you. They will beat you. So doing it in the ring, keeping that focus for the whole 12 rounds with USYK's supposed crazy movement, I don't think it would be that crazy at heavy, but it can't be underestimated. Doing it in the ring is another thing, but analyzing it, I'm impressed with that. I'm impressed. A lot of people miss these things. AJ recently visited the White Hart Lane Stadium, the Tottenham Hotspur football ground. He dropped to one knee for a moment of prayer, a passage from the King James Bible, Mark 8.36. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Yes, indeed. God bless. Boxing often comes down to the two participants knowing their strengths and their weaknesses. How does USYK approach this fight? Does he try and box a 6'6" guy, an athletic 6'6" guy with a huge reach? AJ has good legs too, because that's what he's done all of his career to be successful. He's boxed. But sometimes you got to switch up, change up strategies. This is for the championship. There's something telling me that if USYK is not prepared to gamble rather than just trying to peck AJ from range, if he's not prepared to gamble, it's just going to be a wasted opportunity. USYK has to be prepared to get hit really hard like Andy Ruiz was, and then we'll see what you have. If he can hurt AJ in an exchange and make AJ respect his power, then he's in the fight. Look, to me, if he doesn't hurt AJ, he struggles. He really struggles to win. To me, AJ seems to have most of the tools you need to be a good heavyweight. In theory, he shouldn't be that threatened by USYK's punching power from what we've seen of USYK as a heavyweight, in theory at least. And that should not give him a cushion for comfort to say, yeah, well, I don't have to worry about that. But I don't think he should be listening to people telling him that he needs to threat about his stamina. He needs to fight this way and fight that way. He needs to put it all together. All what he's done in his career, the good, the bad, you've got to put it all together in this performance right now. You've got to be in the moment, not worrying about blowing out. No, don't be worrying about that. By now, there should be a built-in clock where you're pacing these fights. When you want to slug, slug. When you want to box, box. I would like to see him bring a nice tie-you-up game in there. And then I think it's all uphill for USYK if he brings that into the game. Hopefully, he never ties up as excessively as Klitschko, but to bring some of that to the table, leaning on USYK's shoulders and his back, draining him out. If USYK turns it into a hand speed challenge and is able to bring his cruiserweight speed to the party, yeah, tie him up, stop him getting off. Don't let him get off. Whether AJ can take the punches easily or not, tie him up.